She confessed some years ago, but I have never really stopped thinking about it. Probably because he is a friend of her family and is always around on weekends and special occasions. It happened before. We were married in our early 20s. My wife's mother had remarried an Armenian guy, and her aunt was dating one as well. Where we live, there is a small, tight-knit Armenian community, and they do everything together. They wanted my wife to be a part of it, not among those of us on the fringes that show up for a lot of events, but aren't Armenian or a part of their church. It was my wife's aunt's wedding. I was not invited. They said they wanted to keep it small, family only. My wife was pissed, but had no choice but to go. We met up early for brunch that day and had a few drinks. She told me that she thought she would be able to get away by 8 that evening, and I could come stay at the hotel where it was being held. She told me to wait for her phone call. This was before people carried cells everywhere. When she didn't call, all the worst things ran through my head. Was she okay? I wanted to drive to the hotel, which was an hour away. The room had been rented by her aunt, so the front desk wouldn't know anything. I finally heard from her the following afternoon. I want to pick her up at the hotel. I thought we would stay and have lunch or something, but when I got there, she was standing there with a young guy, Noel. As I pulled up, he pulled her in for a hug while acknowledging me with a glance. I knew him. He was adopted by an Armenian couple as a baby. He was in his 20s by this time. My wife's aunt and mom had tried to set her up on dates with him in the past. Of course, he had been invited to the wedding. My wife immediately got in and said she just wanted to leave. So we did, and she told me she had drank too much, and her aunt escorted her to her room and she just passed out. Time went by and I heard things from other people. One of my friends had been told that she gave Noel a blowjob that night. I eventually got up the nerve to bring up that night again. I didn't have to say much. She wanted to tell me. She began crying and said that she only lied because she didn't want to hurt me, but had ever since been trying to find a way to confess. Here is what I gathered from my wife and others that gave me bits and pieces from that night. My wife's aunt and mom were playing matchmaker and pushing Noel on her. I know he wanted her because he openly makes flirtatious and sometimes borderline sexual comments to her. Apparently, the shots kept flowing and my wife is a lightweight. When my wife finally collapsed to a chair, her aunt asked Noel to help her to her room. My wife started to tell me what happened, but then stopped and said that she can't remember anymore. She said he walked her up, and as they got in, he began to undress her and tell her it was bedtime. At first it sounded to me like he had taken advantage of her, and I wanted to confront him, but my wife asked me not to. She admitted that she was extremely drunk, but let him fuck her. She wishes it weren't true, but she wanted to fuck him in that moment. He had stayed the whole night with her. I still wonder about all the details. It's probably better I don't know, and I don't think she ever would, or even could tell me. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and like, and now next story. My wife has cheated on me. So I guess it's my turn now to share my issues here. My wife, 22, and me, 23, have been married for 8 months, been together 4 years. I have always been worried we got together way too young, but I loved her and wanted to see it through. We got a house at 19 together and everything seemed fine. I have been very good to her in these past 4 years. I took care of her in 2021 when she was very sick and made a recovery. We were best friends. This year she has expressed to me that she feels like she may be missing out. She got into those smut books, which led into her falling onto motorcycle TikTok, which I guess they kind of fall together somehow. One night she asked me if she could talk to other fellas on there, but not any farther. Me being hurt, I did not feel comfortable with it, but left it be till the next day. The next day I told her I do not want her to do that, as I should be enough for her, and she understood and was fine. She then told me that a guy DM'd her asking for her Instagram, and she told me, and I felt uneasy, but she does have a public book Instagram, so for her benefit and gain I said he can have that one but not her private one. This is where I started to become uneasy and my intuition was kicking in. I was very concerned that she was talking to other men. I did not go through her phone at this time at all, as I was really trying to trust her. I felt I was lacking a lot here, so I was the best partner I could be for the next following 3 weeks, hanging out with her and doing all sorts of stuff for her to show her I love her. A week after, I had that awful gut feeling and asked her if that guy that asked for her Instagram bothered her anymore after that, and she looked at me straight-faced and told me no, not at all. 2 weeks later, she breaks down and confesses that she was in fact talking to this guy the whole time. talking dirty, and all sorts of things. She even got his number and called him once. So at first I thought we could work through this, but a couple years ago this also almost happened. She was curious about girls and was toting the line of cheating, but not to this extent. Day by day I grow to resent her, but she's trying so hard to keep me and I feel bad for her in a sick sense, and so I tried to send her away for a few days, but she came back that night when she didn't want to stay there. My head is going crazy. I don't know what to do. I feel like she will do this again. But worse, even though she keeps telling me she won't. Now I'm faced with a dilemma to either keep her or end it here. The things she says, all of it seems like manipulation to try to keep dragging me along because she's comfortable with me and I take care of her. We've had plenty of talks and I've been harsh but fair and not raising my voice, but it seems all for naught. And she wants to act like this never happened and go about our days again. I'm so invested in her, it's hard to leave, so her throwing everything at me as if she never did this and that she loves me is really hard. We have no kids. The only asset we share in this marriage is a house we both own equally. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and like. And now next story. I found out a few days ago that my mom, 46-year-old, has been cheating on my dad, 48-year-old, for the last 2 years. I'm not really sure how to go about navigating this situation. My parents have been together for 31 years. My dad is not a good guy, never has been, so I'm not 100% mad at my mom for cheating. But what I don't like is that she asked me to keep it a secret that she told me, because she is still texting this other man. The only reason I suspected anything to begin with was because she sent me a location on Google Maps and asked, "I have a friend here right now. How far are you?" I told her about how far I was and asked who her friend was. She ended up repeatedly saying he was just a close friend that came back into her life during a low point. For context, I live across the country from my family. The low point she's mentioning is when I moved here. She also told me about how they met when she was 14. They met while she was on vacation, and he was her first kiss. Before she went home, she wrote him a letter, and this other man held on to that letter all these years. He texted both my dad and mom a picture of the letter and a message asking how things were. Apparently, he got the numbers off of Google and didn't know whose SE was whose. Dad laughed it off. Mom never told Dad she also got a message. She told me everything, more than I ever wanted to know. She called me and explained how long it had been going on, the times my dad has caught her, how she loves this other man but also loves my dad, so she's torn. She told me about this man in detail, and to me this dude actually seems like a decent guy. I ended up telling my mom that if she wanted to leave my dad and be happy, finally I'd support that and wouldn't hold this against her, that I just want her to be safe and happy. But I also told her that I can't support her lying to my dad, even if he's abusive. My mom said that she told my dad that she couldn't promise to never speak to him again. Now I am torn between going against my mom asking me to keep it a secret and risk my father doing something bad, or keeping the secret and being even further ostracized by family for doing so once it all comes out. 'Cause this stuff always comes out. Not to mention I'm struggling with keeping secrets for her again because I had to do that way too much as a kid. TLDR. Mom reconnected with her first kiss, told me everything a couple of days ago. Dad knows she's cheated, and he knows she doesn't plan to stop anytime soon, but doesn't know that it's happening again at the current moment. Update. Told my mom a date that I plan to tell my dad about all of this. She tried to tell me it's done and it's over already, but I told her I didn't believe her and that it was immature and wrong of her to expect me to keep this a secret, especially since I didn't keep it a secret for my dad when I was a kid. I told my mom that their relationship is over and they both need to realize that, and she tried to deny asking me to keep a secret for her as well as saying the marriage is fine now. But yeah, telling my dad at the beginning of next week, and whatever they decide to do is up to them. I'm gonna tell them not to involve me at all.